So, good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. We are the Group 5 reporting Module 15.
Good morning, everyone. Our topic for today is all about taxation.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
So, our topic for today is all about the tax system and the Philippines development experience. Ano nga ba ang tax system? Income of residents in the Philippines nagpo-progress up to 32% na tax. Resident citizen ay tax on all their net income. So, sabi dito within or without the Philippines. So, nagbibigay pa rin sila ng net income kahit na wala sa bansa. So, passive income. Passive income, this is the income including dividends and interest is subject to tax as at 7.5% to 3. Even prior to the arrival of the Spaniards in the Philippines, in the establishment of formal communities, taxation has been considered among the primary purposes. So, of primary purposes of leadership and governance. So, bago pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol sa Pilipinas, nailathala na ang formal communities, nag-evolve na na-i-consider na as the primary purposes ng mga namamahala o may posisyon sa bansa ang taxation sa Pilipinas. The dato or the local chieftain imposed the tributes of his subordinates in return for protection to be accorded by his men. Aside from this, all harvests belong to the local leader on whom the decision lies as to how the harvest will have distributed to the people. During the Spanish colonial period, the system of collecting taxes became more institutionalized because the natives were regarded as conquered people and were required to pay tributes in order to enrich the royal exchequer and the officers and who accomplished the conquest. So, nag-institutionalize, lalong naitatag o itinatag dahil nga ang katutubo ay itunuring na hawak sa liig so that they are required to pay para magbayad sa taxes, mga ganun. So, during that time, taxes were categorized into 6 headings. First is direct taxes which included personal taxes and income tax. So, ibig sabihin, direct na pagbubuwis kung saan kasama pati personal income. Next is indirect tax or custom duties. Indirect, which means hindi tuwirang pagbubuwis. Next is monopolies that included the stamp tax, sale of quicksilver, salt, playing cards, gunpowder, liquors, tobacco, and opium. 4 is lotteries, 5 public domain, and 6 miscellaneous plain 1901. The most important role that fiscal policy can play with regard to growth is to ensure the macroeconomic stability. But despite 2 highly visible tax reform programs in less than 2 decades, the Philippines is now in the midst of a fiscal crisis. So, napakahalaga nga naman talaga na dapat ay magampanan ng maayos ang patakarang fiscal, which means it is use of government revenue collection and expenditure accounts economy para mapanatiling maayos ang takbo ng ating macroeconomic stability. Pero, despite 2 highly visible tax reform program is less than 2 decades. Ang Pilipinas ngayon ay nasa kalagitnaan ng fiscal crisis, tatas ng mga bilihin and sa mga industry, market, kahit ano. Deterioration, ito yung process na nagiging progressively worse sa ating bansa. So, dahil doon, yung economic activity natin is growing unresponsiveness. So pahapyaw na lang sa 1 to 6 according to De Leon. Kasi mahaba pa yung susunod. According to De Leon 2009, taxes are categorized under 6 classes. So, una is the to the subject matter. So, yung nakapaloob dito sa as to the subject matter is full personal or capitation tax imposed on residents. Ibig sabihin, is a fixed amount upon all persons or upon all persons of a certain class, residents within a specified territory without regard to their property or occupation. Next is property tax imposed on property. Let's assume na you own a house. For example, if the property tax rate is 4% and your house's assessed value is 200,000, then your property tax liability equals to 0.04 times 200 or 200,000 or 8,000. The assessed value is often computed by incorporating the purchases and sales of similar properties in neighbor areas. Next is excise tax imposed on a privilege or right. Dito pumapasok yung primarily taxes that must be paid by business, usually increasing prices for consumers indirectly. Number 2 is as to the purpose. First, yung nakabalog naman dito is first, revenue to raise money for the government. And yung isa, regulatory to regulate an act or practice. 3 is as the scope. Nakapaloob naman dito yung local, municipal, based on a certain locality. D is national, and nature. Therefore, as to the determination of the amount if tax to be paid. So, ang nakapaloob naman dito is ad valorem tax based on the value of the object tax determined by the appraiser. B is specific tax based on weight and measurement. 5. As to who bears the burden. Nandito naman yung direct tax imposed to a person directly involved. B. Indirect tax forms part of the purchase price of the commodity and pass on the consumers. Number 6. As to the graduation or rate. A. Proportional tax based on a fixed percentage. B. Progressive tax based on a certain tax basis. C. Regressive tax, the tax rate decreases as the base increases.
The tax system in the Philippines. The policy of taxation in the Philippines is governed chiefly by the Constitution of the Philippines and the 3 Republic Acts. Constitution. Article 4, Section 28 of the Constitution states that the rule of taxation shall be uniform and equitable, and that Congress shall evolve a progressive system of taxation. National law. National Internal Revenue Code enacted as the Republic Act No. 8424 or the Tax Reform Act of 1997 and subsequent amending it. The laws was most recently amended by Republic Act 1096-3 or the Tax Reform of Acceleration and Inclusion Act. Local laws. Major source of revenue for the local government units or LGUs are tax collected by virtue of Republic Act 7160 or the Local Government Code of 1991, and those sourced from the proceeds collected by virtue of a local ordinance. Taxes imposed at a national level are collected by the Bureau of Internal Revenue Code or BIR, while those imposed at the local level, which is provincial, municipal, city, and barangays, are taxes collected by a local treasurer's office. National taxes. The taxes imposed by the national government of the Philippines include income tax, estate tax, donor's tax, value-added tax, percentage tax, excise tax, and documentary stamp tax. Income tax refers to the individual citizens of the Philippines must pay taxes for all income they have derived from various sources. including compensation income, salary and wages, income self-employed, individual and or professionals, capital gains, rents, interests, royalties, annuities, prizes and dividends, winnings, pensions, and partner share from the profits of partnership. Estate tax. The transfer of the net estate is a flat rate of 6%. There are standard deduction amounting to 5 million. Donor's tax. The total value of a gift made in a calendar year shall be taxed at a flat rate of 6%. There are standard deduction amounting to 250,000. Value-added tax. The value-added tax or VAT rate 12% since 2006. The new VAT threshold was changed from 1,919,500 pesos to 3 million pesos as a result of the passage of the Tax Reform of Acceleration and Inclusion or TRAIN law. Percentage tax. Percentage tax imposed on a person or entities. Excise tax. Excise tax is any duty on manufactured goods is levied at the moment of manufacture rather than at sale. Documentary stamp tax or DST in the Philippines was generally is a tax imposed on the exercise of the certain rights to enter into specific transactions, acts, and deeds relatives to business or dealings or properties as manifested by related documents and papers.
How does taxation involve in the Philippines? A tax is a compulsory financial charge or some other type of levy imposed on a taxpayer by a governmental organization in order to fund government spending in various public expenditures. A failure to pay, along with evasion of or resistance to taxation, is punishable by law. Income of residents in Philippines is taxed progressively of 32%. Resident citizens are taxed on all their net income, derived from sources within and without the Philippines. For non-resident, whether an individual or not of the Philippines, is taxable, and all income derived from sources within the Philippines. Sinasabing ang pagbabayad ng tribute ay kinakailangan sa panahon na iyon upang makalikom ng pondo para ma-maintain o matustusan ang pamamahala ng mga kapuluan o komunidad, tulad na lang ng mga pagbabayad sa salaries ng mga government. And taxation is the process by which the government collects money from people to use for government purpose. When the government charges a tax on income earned, product purchased, and property owned, this is an example of taxation, the act or practice of imposing taxes. Taxes the government fund their projects for economic development.
What is BAR? What is the role, powers, and duties of BAR? Bureau of Internal Revenue shall be under the supervision and control of the Department of Finance, and its power and duties shall be comprehend the assessment and collections of all national internal revenue, taxes, fees, and charges, and the enforcement of all forfeitures, penalties, and fines connected therewith, including the executions of judgment and all cases decided in its favor by the Court of Tax Appeal. In the ordinary courts, the Bureau shall give effects to administer the supervisory and the police powers conferred to it by this code or other law. Isang uri ng agency sa Pilipinas kung saan sila yung namamahala sa pagkukolekta ng iba't ibang uri ng taxes gaya ng income tax, estate tax, value-added tax, percentage tax, excess tax. Sila rin yung namamahala sa pagkukolekta sa mga iba't ibang uri ng penalties and fines. Ay natasan sila ng Courts of Appeal para magkolekta nun. So, di ba, gumagawa ng batas ang ating mga kongresos, di ba? Sa bawat paggawa nila ng iba't ibang uri ng batas, mayroong mga fines or penalty na ginagawa nila. Kunyari, first offense, second offense, mga ganun. So, iba't ibang uri rin, kunyari, sa nakagawa ka ng mga kasalanan. Kunyari, lumabag ka sa iba't ibang uri ng batas. Kunyari, nahulihan ka ng mga pinagbawal na droga, mga baril, mga ganon. So, di ba mayroon yung penalties or mga babayaran mo doon na para mapawalang visa or pwede kang makalaya sa mga ganon na bagay. So, kailangan mong bayaran. What is the purpose of taxation? The main purpose of taxation is to accumulate funds for the functioning of the government machineries. Higher taxes on such goods reduce the consumption as the price of the products will be very high for the consumers. Government also use taxes as a way to protect local industries and as such make them more profitable. Ang main purpose ng taxations is para may pagkuhanan ng pondo ang isang bansa o dito sa atin sa Pilipinas. Di ba nga, every year is nagpapasa sila ng batas ng national budget. So, ngayon, nag-propose na sila. Ewan ko kung na-approve na nila yung 21 national budget. So, yung example, next year is naka-ready na yung 21 national budget. So, ang ginawa nila is pinondohan na nila lahat ng ahensya at departamento ng ating bansa. 'Di ba meron din sa Congress. 'Di ba sa Congress nandoon ang district representative and party list representative. Example natin ng party list representative is abono party list. So ang abono party list is ang main na sinusuportahan niya is yung mga agricultures o yung ating mga magsasaka. Sila yung parang boses ng magsasaka sa ating gobyerno para marinig, maalam nila yung hinaing nila, yung problema nila. So, yung party list na yon, yung party list representative, hingi siya ng budget para doon sa mga magsasakang yon. So, ganun din ang ating mga district. So, sa mga congressman natin, 'di ba dito sa Pangasinan, mayroon tayong 6 district. So, dito sa amin, dito sa Pusurubio, Binalonan, Ordaneta, mga ganyan. So, mayroon kaming si Gico. So, yun yung congressman namin. So, siya yung boses ng 5th District ng Pangasinan para makuha ay masuportahan niya rin tong lugar namin. So, kunyari, gumagawa ay ihingi rin siya ng mga budget para masuportahan tong infrastructures na mga project niya dito. Tapos sabi rin dito, higher taxes on such goods reduce the consumptions of a price of the products will be very high for the consumers. So, sabi dito, kapag mataas ang taxes or pinapataw nilang tax sa bawat products, bawat mga bagay-bagay, is yung consumer is yung products nila tataas din. Magiging yung mga consumers is mahal yung bibili nila, mas expensive, gano'n. So, etong sinasabi na to is nangyari na dito sa atin sa Pilipinas. So, ano yung inutos ni Duterte na pinabatas ng Congress at Senate? So, yun yung tinatawag nating train law. So, ibig sabihin ng train law is para masuportahan lahat ng projects ng gobyerno. So, di ba nga, dahil sa train law, nagkaroon ng inflation. So, anong ibig sabihin ng inflation? So, nagkaroon ng pagtaas ng bilihin. Para, syempre, binawi nila yung tax doon sa products na yun. Siyempre, alangan naman na malaki yung tax mo, malaki yung binabayaran mong tax, hindi mo tatasan din yung binibenta mong products. Di logi ka. Lahat ng example, yung tubo mo is napupunta lang sa tax, wala kang income, walang bumabalik sa'yo. So, ganon yung nangyayari sa train law or sa inflation. So, doon sa train law is, doon sa ginawa nilang batas na inano nila ng tax, yung pinatawan nila ng malaking tax is gaya ng mga sin tax. Yung gaya ng alcohol, ng alak, o ng sigarilyo, mga ganon yung mga sin tax. Tapos, yung mga nakakasakit din ng mga product. Example, yung maraming sugar, basta yung nakakasira sa atin, sa kalusugan ng tao.